Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girija. My name is Girija Bhargav Patel. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a businesswoman. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girija, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girija and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girija. Today's episode is going to be all about how to figure out your values, how to define your values and what really makes you tick, and then how to apply them and integrate them into your business. A lot of times we don't even realize that we're doing that. And it is just happening naturally because there are certain things that are deal breakers for us. And there are certain things that just don't sit well with us and can cause friction. And then because of that, we'll have certain actions. Now is the time to really become more intentional about it and to really figure out what really makes you tick, right? And then what really makes you keep moving forward and really gives you that motivation to continue doing what you are doing. So you might have already started doing some of the things I'm going to talk about, or you didn't even know that that's what you were doing. But today's episode is really about alignment. So this entire time, the last few episodes that we've been talking about, it's really about aligning your business to who you are, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in the law, whether it's as how you're spending your money, or whether it's about who you're creating brand partnerships with or collaborations with. But the idea is to have alignment, because I truly believe that when you have alignment in your business, in your personal life, and alignment is coming through in all different ways, is just a common thread that's intertwining every aspect of your life, life just feels better. I mean, I don't know how to say it any other way, but life just makes sense. There's a rhythm, and the rhythm is awesome, and you are thriving. And not to say that you can't try new things. That's not what this is about. But this is really about figuring out what your values are. Now, earlier in the year of this year, I actually went through this whole value system and trying to figure out my values. So I was part of this coaching group. I didn't even know that this is what I was getting into. I didn't really have an understanding of what I was getting myself into. I just knew that the person that was leading this was fantastic. And she really helped us figure it out too. And so I just became such an advocate of it, because I saw that when you do that, when you align your values across the board, because nothing lives on separate islands in your life. We can pretend like it does, but it doesn't. So when you're aligning across the board, everything just really makes sense. And you become more confident in what you're doing. You become stronger in what you're doing. And you come out like this really strong-willed leader. And whether you are a leader in the corporate world or whether you are an entrepreneur in your own business and your own industry, you shine. And you shine because you are thriving and you're cultivating what's the most important to you. Like we're trying to figure out steps on how to do that. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it, but we are. And so the great place to start, which would be my number one step, is that you think about the situations. Like first of all, grab a notebook, okay? And then think about the situations that you have been in. And what are the situations that you have been like, this is amazing. I loved it. I loved how this ended up being. I loved how I performed, or I loved how I felt, or I loved how I made others feel, all of that. Write down the different situations that has occurred in. Then on a flip side, write down the situations where you're like, oh, that was terrible. Or gosh, that's just left me with such uneasy feelings. So much friction was happening internally that this just did not sit well with me. Or You literally lost your lid because you're just kind of like, I can't believe that just happened. I will absolutely have to make a radical stance on this. And that happens. That happens where you're just like, something happens and you're triggered and you're like, oh gosh, no. And you make a radical stance. Either you are vocal about it or you take actions and you're vocal about it too. But the idea is that when we're in those situations, write them down and, think about them. Think about what made you feel good about that situation, or think about what made you not feel good about that situation. And how does it stand out to you? And what are some of the values that you see that are speaking loudly in those situations? Is it the value of integrity? Is it the value of friendship? Is it the value of confidence? Is it the value of, having, trust, or being judicial, or being fair? There's so many different values out there, but think about those situations first, write them down, jot them down. And there's going to be some that really stand out. And so write those down as well, of course, and then think a little bit deeper and see if there's other situations where you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I remember that. It could be a time when you did something at work and you're like, oh, this was awesome. I literally performed like nobody else's business. Or it could be a situation in the family environment and this is how it was awesome. We spent time together, or, it could be anything. But write it down. Why did you feel the way you felt? What were some values that you see that are like, really loud and clearly you can identify them, and write them down? And also, what were some of the triggers during that time? Is there something that happened that was a very pivotal moment of how you felt? And so write those down too. And so when you've written all this stuff down and you kind of gained a little bit more clarity on what are those situations that bring you tremendous amounts of joy or that make you feel like you're on the top of the world, versus situations where you're just like, oh, that was just terrible. Definitely never want to do that one again. Or, where you're taking a very strong stance. When you've written all that stuff down, then you can list out the values that come to your mind about who you are. What are some values that define you? What are some values that you're constantly thinking about when you're making a decision? Or the values that really come up and evoke some type of emotion in you where you're wanting to take an action or you're wanting to speak up about it. And so write those values down. You may not be able to really identify them all like with one word. It could even be phrases. It doesn't matter. But write those thoughts down. There's also some great resources on the internet where you can either Google values, core values, or something like that. And you'll definitely get like a huge list of values. And so you can even go through those values and like you go through the list and circle the ones that really resonate with you. And it doesn't have to be like, two that you circle. Just circle all the ones that resonate with you. And it could be like 10, it could be 12, it could be 7. But circle them all. And as you're going through it, you'll also see that some of them are really connected. Like for me, for example, honesty is one of my core values. Trust is one of my core values. And then integrity is one of my core values. And so I truly feel like those were all the ones that I circled. And I feel like, okay, well, integrity really goes with the trust and the honesty part of something as well. So I kind of umbrellaed integrity as a big one, and then those other ones underneath it to kind of, further define what integrity means to me. And so integrity is one of my core values. And I know that underneath that, I have all these other values that pop in, but are very similar in nature. And so I've kind of housed them together in that one word of integrity. And so also think about, how do these values show up in your life? And when is the time that these values showed up and how did you react? Was it a deal breaker for you? Or was it, something that triggered where you were really vocal about it, or you made it, again, a radical action because of it? And so think about those times, and generally those end up being your core values. And it's said the recommendation out there is to have 5 core values that you are really hinging yourself on, and where you are making your moves based on those 5 core values. And it can be hard. It's not set in stone, but it's definitely a recommendation that a lot of the value experts out there, the people that are teaching it, say that pick 5. And while it may not always be easy, but definitely remember that you can have the bigger umbrella value that actually, is encompassing all the other smaller values that kind of fit under that one word. And so always keep that in mind. I mean, some people actually pick up a dictionary or a thesaurus and they try to figure this out as well. This might seem like, gosh, this should not require that much time, or why does this seem like so cumbersome? This should not be that difficult. It's not difficult, but what it is that you're really going into deep introspection of yourself. And that can be exhausting at times. So you don't have to do this in one sitting. Absolutely not. But most definitely don't rush through this. Really think about it and really contemplate on how these values are showing up and what becomes a deal breaker for you. Because when that deal breaker shows up, that's when radical changes are happening. That's when you're just like, I will not collaborate with you. I will not move forward in this decision. Even though it's bringing in lots of money, I will not move forward because now your values are in question. The values that become your deal breakers are in question. And so it's really important to figure that out. So you already know from the get-go, I know how I'm going to react. This is not going to be a surprise to me anymore. And what happens is that there's so much intentionality behind everything then that even those deals that are coming in, even the things you're marketing, everything is just so based on those values that you end up not seeing the stuff that doesn't align anymore. It ends up not coming to your table. Not to say it can't creep in at times, but you're so able to identify it at such a sooner time period that it doesn't weigh on you. It doesn't weigh on you in a way where you're just questioning, but you're just like clarity. Clarity is so much present that you're not confused about the decision that you're about to make, and nor do you feel guilty about it because you already know how you were going to make that decision. I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now back to our awesome conversation. So, filter out from the bigger group and then get the deal breaker core values that you're like, this is it. This is how I am. Now, how do you make those values show up in your life, in your business, in your personal life? And how are you intentionally implementing them in your marketing, your website, in the collaborations and the partnerships that you're doing, in the way that you represent yourself, the way that you come across even on social media? And, I was at this conference this past summer, the Creative at Heart conference, and there was a speaker there. And he, we're always talking about being authentic and showing up the way we want to show up. But he made a great point. And his point was this: on social media, he is showing up and he's being authentic, but he's being authentic in the way that he needs to be authentic for the audience that he is showing up for. And the audience that he's showing up for on social media is the audience that hasn't booked him yet for a photo shoot or for an event planning position or for XYZ, whatever you're doing. So he's like, I don't need to show my behind the scenes of my life all the time. I'm still being genuine. I'm still being genuine to my values in the way I show up to my audience, but I don't have to show everything all the time because that's not relevant anymore. Now, I can have a personal account where I show all that stuff to my friends and family, and that's totally fine, but I don't need to show everything all the time on social media. So what my point is that a lot of times we're trying to be so authentic that, and I say that in air quotes because I feel like it's a word that's really thrown around a lot, but we're trying to be so authentic all the time that we're really showing things that just doesn't relate or doesn't need to be shared necessarily. It's not that you're hiding it or you're being deceptive about it, but it's not relevant to the audience that you're sharing it with. Now, deception would be to say, I don't do XYZ, but the reality is that you do XYZ, right? That's different. But you don't need to show somebody that you're sitting in your PJs while you're working all the time either. And that's like, an example that I'm just using right now. And a lot of people have done that during COVID. But the point is that you show what you want to show. You curate what you want to curate on social media also, but have it aligned with who you are, what you're doing, and your values. Now, even with marketing, with collaborations, with who you're doing, if you're doing a brand ambassador type of situation, or you're an influencer, what brands are you working with? And what do they stand for even? Things like that. And how are your values showing up? Evaluate them. Evaluate the current state of everything that you're doing and how are your values showing up in them? And how are you being disingenuous to yourself? What areas in your business are you feeling friction? And then you can think about why you're feeling friction in those areas. It is because that your values are being challenged or your values are causing the friction, or is there something else that's causing that friction? So whether it's in marketing, your website, your collaborations and partnerships with third parties, or even if it's just your social media and how you're showing up for that, or where you are going for networking, even all these different aspects of your life definitely intermingle and they definitely influence each other. So, evaluate the current situation of all of them and see where you're not feeling 100% confident, and then definitely figure it out why. And then once you figure out the why, you can take all of that and you can then say, okay, now I'm going to make a plan of action. I'm going to make a plan of action where every single aspect of my business is literally flowing and not breaking in between because there's friction in my values. When you have alignment with your values, then you will have less problems in your personal and in your business life. And you'll also have less problems with the flow of things. The rhythm will fall into place. I promise you that. So just a small example in my own personal business is that family is one of my values that I have, and family is having time for my family, time for my friends, making that time to hang out, making that time to be with them. And so I have also stepped away from potential clients where I feel that they would be high maintenance in the sense of, okay, I need your help on the weekend, when I'm like, I know you don't need my help on the weekend. I know that this is not necessarily needs to get done on a Saturday night. I know it. And when I see that some clients might be that way, and nothing to say that it's wrong, and there might be another attorney that wants to do that, but I don't. I want to keep my Saturday nights for my friends, my family, my kids, my husband. I don't want to keep Saturday night writing a brief or writing something that I just don't need to be writing at that point. Now, there are times when in my business or in my work, I have to do something and it is, time is of the essence and I'm doing it and it becomes a priority, and that's okay. But that is definitely not something that is happening often, because usually I've already prioritized everything and I've already planned it out for myself. So I'm not having to do that, where it's creeping into my personal family time as well. So those are just one example, right? There's so many other examples out there, like even with collaborations and partnerships, and where people may not have the same value system, or they might be acting in a way that seems very unfair, or in a way that you're just like, I can't believe somebody would say or do that. Then those are the times that, you will actually, you may want to evaluate and see, okay, does this make sense or does this not make sense? Okay, guys, I need a favor from you. So I need to make sure that other people are hearing this too. I need to make sure that they're benefiting from all of the knowledge and from all of the amazing entrepreneurs that are showing up on my podcast. And so I need you to help me. I need you to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. or take a screenshot and share it on your social media and tag GBP Law or Law Chat with Girija, so that way others can also benefit from the wisdom that is coming out of this podcast. Because I know I learn every single time I have a guest, and I know you are learning too. So subscribe, leave a review, and share the love. Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girija. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.